On Two Wheels this week, Wayne's out socialising with some of his biker friends. He checks out some of the latest products at this year's Trade Expo. But first, here's Jeff with the very latest in motorcycle safety from the Transport Research Labs.
You can't help feeling nice and safe in a car, can you? Look at this one. Airbags, head restraints, collapsible steering column, side impact bars. In fact, you've got absolutely everything, the whole shooting match. But what have we as bikers got? We've got a helmet to protect us, gloves, pair of boots, and perhaps leathers or a good protective suit, and that's all. But what about airbags for bikes? Well, we're at the Transport Research Laboratory, and we're going to find out more. And here, in the Impact Test Facility, is where we're going to find Dr. Brian Chin. He's the man who's responsible for all of the bike research done at the TRL. Now, first off, Brian, you're not some sort of anti-bike boffin, are you?
Oh, definitely not, no. I have a 1929 AJS.
Very nice too. Has that got airbags on it?
Good heavens, no, it hasn't even got lights, let alone airbags.
Great stuff. Tell me, before we actually get into the airbag setup for real, can you just take us through the background behind your research?
Yes, it was government-sponsored research, and they were very concerned about the high rate of accidents and injuries to motorcyclists, and in particular to the head injuries which cause many of the fatalities which we see.
So where do you start your work then? We know that around 70% of bike accidents involve another vehicle, so are they mainly, side impacts?
No, not necessarily, but the start of our research is always accident investigation to find out exactly how the motorcyclist hits the car and what injuries are caused by different types of accident. And then we use this information to plan the program of research to make sure that the tests we do and the impacts we do are representative of the accidents that are happening on the road.
So in essence, are they ones, is it the old T-bone thing, or are they glancing blows or what?
Well, there are a number of types of accident mechanism, and it's generally the sort of T-bone one that you describe, where a car pulls out from a side turning into the path of a motorcyclist and he hits the car in the side, that cause many of the fatal and very serious head injuries. But it's more the glancing blows where the motorcyclist hits the side of the car at a shallow angle, which give rise to many of the very serious leg injuries which occur to motorcyclists.
And if the rider goes over the top, this is when he bangs his head on the roof?
Yes, when a car, for example, pulls out of a side road into the path of a motorcycle, the motorcycle hits the car in the side and the rider is immediately thrown off at the velocity of the impact, which, as you know, can be up 30, 40 miles an hour, and he's thrown into the side of the car, often head first.
So what is the airbag actually designed to do?
Well, the airbag is designed to inflate and control the trajectory of the rider so that he's not thrown into the path of the car that he's just hit, but so that he leaves the motorcycle cleanly. Of course, he will still fall to the ground and he may have a few bumps and bruises and possibly even a broken bone, but he certainly will not sustain the serious or fatal head injuries that he might well have sustained if the airbag had not been on the motorcycle.
So it's not actually to keep him on the bike then, it's to make it a smoother take-off, is it?
No, it's not to keep him on the motorcycle, but it is to hold him away from the car and eventually to separate from the motorcycle in a way that the motorcycle does not fall on top of him.
Now, what about, you mentioned legs there, what about the leg protector part of it? They caused a bit of a fuss at the time when they were first mooted. Are they an essential part of the airbag technology?
The leg protection is not an essential part of the airbag technology, but in this particular case we use some foam in front of the knees to help control the trajectory of the rider.
Now, this footage, it looks spectacular and frightening, and all these dummies that you use. Is it an expensive process? I mean, how much are these dummies?
Well, the dummies themselves cost well over £100,000 each with all the instrumentation, and each test costs somewhere between £20,000 and £30,000 depending on the complexity of the test. For example, some are into just stationary vehicles, motorcycle moving and the car stationary, but many of the tests were with both vehicles moving, and it's very difficult to do a test like that, particularly keeping the motorcycle upright at the right angle and at the right speed is quite a complex process.
And how special are these dummies? I mean, they're anatomically correct? I mean, have they got metal bones in or plastic bones? Or
Well, the dummies we used are based on a standard dummy, but it was extensively modified according to an ISO standard so that it was particularly suitable for motorcycle impact tests. For example, the legs were made of particularly specially made plastic components which would break like human bones. And the head of the dummy was treated with some special foam added to it so that the helmet, it represented the proper wearing of a helmet. And inside the dummy there are very many measurements that are taken to represent the rapid rotation of the head, for example, which you get when a motorcyclist strikes the ground, and also sometimes you get the rapid deformation of the chest. And all these types of things were measured inside the dummy so that we could assess the potential for injury in each of the cases, each of the impacts that we did in a part of our test series.
So do you actually end up with broken plastic bones then?
Yes, we do. We do sometimes, and then of course they have to be replaced. But during the breaking of the bones, we get all the measurements we need to know just what happened in the test, and then we can correlate these with the sort of injuries we know motorcyclists experience in their legs.
So Brian, can we actually look at a bike that's been fitted with a bag for real?
Yes, you can. We have a demonstration model which is constructed so that you can see how all the principles work, although of course it won't inflate at the same speed as the real one. We can't do that, it's not safe.
Well, Brian, this to me looks almost like a normal bike, any normal bike. I'm surprised the manufacturer hasn't actually done this.
Well, Honda have actually fitted an airbag system to a Gold Wing and tested it experimentally.
Have they?
Yes, they have.
Oh, well, you live and learn. I didn't know that. But anyway, we're not here to talk about those. But I'm intrigued by this. What's this? Lotus on the tank. I know this is a Norton Commander, isn't it?
Oh, it's a Norton Commander, all right. Yes, they don't make them anymore like that.
Yeah.
No, that's there because Lotus Engineering developed the airbag system for us.
As a manufacturing sort of facility?
As a manufacturing facility, yes,
yeah.
because TRL does not possess manufacturing facilities of that type.
And this is the airbag in here. I take it this is flexible because this has been used before. Cosmetically, that would be a smooth thing, like on a car steering wheel, would it be?
Yes. As you can see from these slits here, in the original airbag system that we used in tests, these would all have been closed and this would have been sealed. The slits are designed specially to give the airbag a free flow out of its container, but without throwing any of the cover into the face of the motorcyclist.
Right. Unlike a car one, where it is a cover that flies off, isn't it, in cars, is it?
No, I don't think we have covers flying off even in cars, but I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah.
But certainly...
I don't know where the bag comes from, you just see a cover.
It's very important that you don't have bits of the cover coming up into the face of the motorcyclist.
Okay. So, if I got on this, could we actually do a test?
Yes, certainly, yes.
Okay.
Do. Get on and I'll show you exactly how it works.
Not only going off prematurely, you know. So anyway, the rider's going along here, and I know that you set this one up, as you were saying earlier, to run off an air cylinder then.
Yes, this is for demonstration purposes and it's pumped up by a compressed air system.
Right, so I'm not going to jump. Okay, can you...
Right, I'll press it now
happens.
and then we can see just what happens.
Okay. And this is far, far slower, because it happens in milliseconds, doesn't it, the real one?
Yes, the real one is almost like an explosion. This one is very much slower, so that we can...
Wow!
We can see just how it inflates and just how it looks when it is inflated.
Have you thought of making it in the shape of an inflatable woman? That'd be... sorry, girls. That'd make you laugh, wouldn't it, eh? But, wow, it's far bigger than I thought. But it's got to be this big, hasn't it, to do the job. And what's holding it? That's all anchored firmly down below there.
Yes, it's anchored firmly, of course, by the area from which it's inflated. But inside the airbag, and you can see the stitching on the outside here, there are some special tethers. And the reason for the tethers inside the bag is to keep it rigid during the inflation, so it doesn't slip from one side to the other, and this prevents the motorcyclist from slipping around it in angled collisions.
And would it be firmer than this? I mean, is this fully inflated or what?
Well, this is the shape that it would have when fully inflated, but of course the pressure inside is nothing like as high as it would be in the real thing.
Right, it would be really firm, and the idea would be, I'd just do this sort of business, would I? You know, you'd rise up and be cushioned there.
Not quite, because in the real airbag there is a venting system.
Right.
And there would be a hole where you can see the stitching here.
Yeah.
And the gas that's generated, the air, would come out of the hole, and it would allow the airbag to act like an energy absorber. Because the one thing we do not want is to have it blown up and act like a spring. So we exhaust the gases through this hole, and the whole thing is then controlled, and the rider moves forward against the airbag contracts, and it contains the rider on or near the motorcycle until everything falls to the ground, when the rider falls over the bag onto the ground and doesn't become entangled with the bike.
And this is what we saw in the video then. I mean, this is all happening in a split second, milliseconds, isn't it?
Yes, it
So
inflates
it's inflated and
in a
down
few
again.
millisequons.
Yeah, and then equally down again, sort of
And equally
absorbing
down,
energy.
absorbed energy.
Yeah.
That process is a little slower
Yeah.
than the inflation process, but it all does happen extremely quickly.
What's actually setting this off? What are the mechanics? I mean, it's not air, is it? It's some sort of gas, is it? That's in
Well, it's a combination of air and gas,
Yeah.
which is generated by an inflator, which was specially developed for this motorcycle system.
Yeah.
And it's fitted inside the motorcycle, of course, so it's protected and you can't see it.
And how big's that? You know, just roughly. I mean,
It's sort of about this long by about this diameter.
Oh, so fairly easy to tuck away then.
Well, yes,
You don't
we
need
did.
a massive air reservoir.
No, we did find room for it.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. I'll tell you one thing that strikes you when you're on here. I think, my God, what about if this went off while I was riding along? What have you done to sort of prevent, as far as you're able, one of these things firing off?
Well, that's a very critical point and a very valid one that you've mentioned. And we did a lot of research with this motorcycle, riding over some extremely rough ground to an extent that a normal motorcyclist would never attempt this.
Did you do that, did you?
No, I didn't do that, no. We hired in a specialist to do
Yeah.
that. And we took a lot of measurements all over the motorcycle of the vibrations, and this enabled us to set the firing conditions so that the conditions during the impact would fire the airbag, but the conditions that were experienced during this extremely rough riding would not have fired it.
And tell me, I've got my knees nicely wedged against these. These are the leg protectors. Have they got steel bracing behind them? Have they?
Yes, this is...
I know you took that cover off for us. So is this the steel work I can see down there?
Yes, this is the construction of the leg protection that was fitted inside the motorcycle. But in the series of tests for evaluating the airbag system, we were not specifically evaluating the leg protection.
No, this was just sort of...
It was designed to evaluate the airbag system.
Yeah. Okay. One last thing. What's all this up the front here? Is that anything to do with the system or what? This black plastic?
No, that was a standard Norton fitting. And
Yeah.
at one time we did wonder whether it would be a good idea to put the airbag inside here.
Right.
But our computer simulation, which we did at the beginning of this project, showed that the ideal place for the airbag was in fact where it is now, which is at the rear of the tank.
Yeah.
So the position of the airbag when it's fitted to the motorcycle is a very critical part of our investigation, and this was shown to be the best position, mainly because it inflates right in front of the rider, and it has the best possible chance of restraining him on the motorcycle up to the point where he inevitably gets thrown clear of it.
So Brian, pretty impressive demonstration this, but where are we now? What's happened to your research?
Well, as you said, we've concluded our research, and TRL is a research organisation, and the research we've done has shown that it has great potential, so it's up to others now to take it forward in the best way possible.
So it seems that motorcycling could be following the car industry. We could soon be buying machines with airbags fitted as standard. And after the break, Wayne is at this year's Trade Expo.
Thank you. We're at our annual visit to the Trade Expo, the International Motorcycle Trade Expo, and it's here at Donnington Park in the exhibition centre. This is where the dealer comes to buy all his stuff for the rest of the year to sell to you out on the shelves. And I said the word dealer, and that's what it is, because unfortunately it's for the trade only. So you can't come in and have a look round, they can. And you need a pass, and hopefully Lynette's going to give me a pass, aren't you?
Yeah.
I have my pass, I'm allowed in. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later. So we're back here at the Trade Expo for the year 2000. And the best thing to do is to introduce something that is brand new at this particular expo, and it is a tyre from Dunlop, this 207 Sports Max. Now then, there's guys out there who believe, and possibly they can do it, that they are as good as the guys who ride super sport machines in the 600 series. But are you really? Or could you be if your tyre was up to it? Well, this is what Dunlop have done. With a bit of outside help from the super sport riders, they've designed this tyre. It's cut in very much the same way as they use, with some alterations so it's a little bit more applicable to a road bike rider, and you end up with this product. Now, let's be fair, if it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for you. So you could say, for the first time ever, you're going to get a race replica tyre available for road use. And it's going to be in the shops now, as we speak. I've always fancied a bit of weightlifting. I think I better go back to the gym and practice. Tyres. You've got to buy your tyres from somewhere, you know. Well, you just go into the shop, don't you, and say, go on, stick us a tread on the back of that bike, will you please? But the trader has got to buy them from somewhere. So what he does, he comes along to these guys. This is Cambrian Tyres. They're exhibiting here at the Trade Expo. I swore this was a VTR, not a Continental, but nonetheless, he comes along and he does a deal with the trader and sells him some tyres to sell to you. This particular company, well, they do all the brands. Look, these are Continental tyres. And over here we've got the Battle Axe. That's a famous tyre, isn't it? The old Battle Axe. They sell everything, and I presume these lads are cooking a deal. Now, 3 years ago, this company, Reacher, which is a Belgian company, started to sell their products here in the UK. And they did like 1.2 million, which is very creditable for a new setup. But would you believe this last year they did as much as 4 million quid's worth? Now that is a remarkable growth factor, and it all stems from damn good stuff, well distributed, well stocked on the shelves, and doesn't give any trouble. And you out there obviously like it because you've been buying plenty of it, and it's such as this that does it. You see, what we've got here, this item is the flagship in the range when it comes to a textile jacket. It's 250 quid worth, which really isn't quite a lot of money, but nonetheless, you want plenty of features for that amount of money, and you've got it. First of all, one main zip gets you into the coat, gets you in and out of it, but there's some more zips. Why? And it's simple, because it's a multi-layered jacket. And what you can do is not only remove the thick winter liner, you can remove, in addition, the lightweight waterproof membrane. Why, you might ask? Well, it's because it's a general all year round product. The idea being is, in the summer when it's warm and hopefully dry, you take that waterproof liner out, you open these little things, which are the air vents, and plenty of air gets in there, and it also comes out of the air vents here on the back. So it's cool. If it should start raining, you whip out the inner liner, zip it into place, and off you go, you're still dry. You've got all the protection you need, and the protection has access from the outside. So if you want to wear your jacket casually rather than wear it with all the armour in when you're on the bike, then you can take it all out and you've got a nice casual jacket. And that's one of the reasons why such people as Richard here are doing as well as they're doing. There's more, of course, further on. I know, I'm sorry, but I've told you not to ring me when I'm at work, like now, because I think the camera's caught us. Okay, bye. Oh, sorry about that. Right, let me tell you about this stuff. AXO. AXO, a name synonymous with the off-road world, with your motocross guys. But not anymore, because they do road bike stuff, fancy helmets, some beautiful boots and gloves and textile jackets. Big names use AXO gear, you know. You've got the likes of Troy Corsa and Harada. So it's a high-profile product, but I have found out at some decent prices. And in fact, it brings me to this. Excuse me, mate, do you get a pair for this price? You haven't got a 7 or an 8, have you? Hello? An ignorant sod, honestly. Oi, I've been looking for you everywhere, but I'm glad I found you, because I found this. This is a Gianni Falco boot from Italy. It's a bit different. It's a little shorty boot, but a shorty boot with all the features, with the toe slider and the ankle slider here, of all the fancy racing boots. It's quite nice. I should imagine it's very comfortable, but I'm not really sure whether it's my cup of tea. But anyway, each to their own, as they say. But I've got to show you this, because when we were at the bike show back last year at the NEC, I showed you a helmet and I did indicate the fact that it will not be available until the year 2000. Well, we're in the year 2000 and it is now going to be available, and it's this baby. Tasty bit of stuff from Vemar, very stylish, got some beautiful lines, and in this case, a colour that is quite relevant to a lot of the modern day superbikes. And it is a superbike style helmet for a superbike. Stylish or what? Italian style. But you may have noticed it's a Honda. Italian Honda. Well, it's produced in Italy, this baby, and evidently it's got Italian style about it. But they don't actually officially bring it into the country. But this particular company, which is Granby Motors in Derbyshire, have decided to do that. In fact, this isn't the only interesting thing they brought into the country. They do very peculiar things. They bring in these sort of things. An electric push bike. A what? Push bike, yeah. You pedal it, but if you need that bit of outside assistance, you've got a little throttle, and you can use this legally when you're 14 years old. Look at this. No, it's not a mini version of a Ducati Monster, but it is, because it looks just like one. Same type of frame, 50cc, and my size. Feel quite at home on that. Very impressive. And yet another different type of thing, a scooter, but an electric scooter. Now, when we went to the Manchester Motorcycle Show, I showed you an electric scooter there, and we've done one previously on a road test, a Peugeot, but this is a little different in respect that this will do as much as 50 mile an hour, and do 45 miles at that. Look at this is a bit different, isn't it, God, they've got all sorts of little things. And this is electric as well, See you later. Hey. Oi, come here a minute, come here. Listen, I'm doing some research here now. I'm checking stuff out for the future programmes. But I'm going to be back at the Trade Expo next week, so if you'd like to just leave me alone while I do a little bit more research and have a little refreshment. See you soon.
Well, I'm pretty sure that is not a bottle of water, but Wayne will indeed be back next week at the Trade Expo with some more gadgets and gizmos, providing he can get back into the building. Also on Two Wheels next week, I look at CCM's latest machine, the 640 RS.